Welcome to the Cafe Nutty Show. I'm your host, the Goldsmith, back with the orange glasses, back to it. Very, very glad to have a couple announcements we've been waiting for a very, very long time. It is here. It is coming, and it is something we've been waiting for. And, of course, with Sparklet Transition, the transition from Spark to Sparklet, it is the start. It is the start we've been talking about, and that is not only Sparklet as a part of the Upwind economy, not only is it Sparklet as the promotional tool, which it is, we're going to potentially see further and more of these airdrop campaigns, bringing more people into Upwind, and Sparklet as that key, as that gateway to bring people in. But of course, and very importantly, it is the pathway to Sparklet as a listed token. We have to have the commodification of the Spark that we have into Sparklet so that it can be ready to be bridged out, so that it can be exchanged on exchanges. And it is very exciting that we are here. We are probably a couple months, according to Upwind, probably a couple months away from listing, but we have to get ready for it. And to get ready for it, we have to transition our Spark into Sparklet, and we're finally there. Even though there was a beta program where there was testing of getting people's Spark listed to Sparklet, now we're there. Everyone's had there. The transition period's here. We're going to get into the details. It is going to interrupt your normal Upland staking for a couple days, but it is going to be worth it, and I'm very much looking forward to it. We additionally had an announcement about a meetup. So we're working on the East Coast to put together the East Coast meetup, but no, we got scooped. The London, UK meetup is going to be happening here in a few weeks. So that is something to look out for. Actually, Dirk is going to be there. So it's kind of an official Upland meetup as opposed to a purely user-generated, user-created meetup. But it's exciting to see the details. We'll go over that. That was announced today. Denesis Map assets. So when we do have a season, we often have a sale for a Block Explorer, sweetener sale with Block Explorers. We often have a sale for map assets. We have a sale sometimes for, for cars in a season, and sometimes there's other little sales that are in there. But we do have the map asset sale going on right now, so we'll go over that, the details. Registration open now, sale tomorrow. We'll get into the details on that as well. And I feel like there's something else, but maybe that's just because we've had such a full week. I guess the two small things that we're used to every single week. We do have a Spark sale, and we do have a Spark weekend. We have no Spark sale this weekend. We do have a Spark weekend. We still have that the up status reward, the extra incentive to up status during the Spark weekend. But that customary Spark sale that we have every weekend during the season, not happening this weekend. We'll get into the details on Spark weekend as it's going to exist this time around. And then finally, we do have the Upland update. We've gone over everything pretty well this week, so there's nothing too big to go over on the update. We'll just go over the week very quickly just to review what we've already done. And of course, to kick everything off, let's get let's get it out of the way. All views and opinions expressed by myself, they're mine and mine alone. Shouldn't be taken as game strategy or financial advice. Any views or opinions I do express, they do not represent the game or the team of Upland. The views and opinions of those who are contributors and guests, they're theirs and theirs alone. Shouldn't be taken as game strategy advice. They don't represent myself, the Goldsmith, the Cafe Nightly Show. Should not be taken as financial advice, and they don't represent the game or the team of Upland necessarily. Woo! Let's start with the week in review. Upland does a good job of it with the Upland update. It's a way of looking at an entire week of Upland all at once, all quickly in a very short video. I'm not going to watch the whole thing with you today, but I will let you know that it goes over some big pieces. Obviously, the power-ups with our cars or the racing with the sale going out and those coming into the game of Upwind. The Gun Tent 2.5 release and the tournament's now open. The Track Hero, obviously, we've gone over that earlier this week. Track Hero in Lusail Stadium, a key partnership between Upland, Abdullah, and Nowhere. And the Spark Transition, obviously, that was announced today. And what else? We had a car sale that was part of it. It wasn't too exciting for a lot of people based on the pricing. It is what it is. And ultimately, what else do we have this week? I think that's about what we had too exciting this week. But of course, the map asset sale was announced today. I think that's our week view. relatively quickly there. But let's get into the pieces that we've been waiting for a while. Let's take a look at that announcement right down here. Important update in reference to Spark. Starting on June the 25th, all in-game Spark will be displayed as Sparklet. Rest assured, Spark and Sparklet are the same. We know there's a 1,000 to 1 conversion rate, with Sparklet being 1,000th of a Spark. So instead of saying, seeing our Spark displayed as a 2.5 Spark, we'll see it be displayed as 2,500 Sparklet, which is gonna look like a lot. But each of those Sparklet does 1,000th as much as a Spark. When you think of it that way, you've got exactly the same amount to work with. During the time, June 25th through 27th, Spark utility will be temporarily unavailable. That means you can't stake things, you can't unstake things, you can't do anything with your Spark. And that's because we are retitrating everything, and it has to all be redone. That is, taking your Spark and making it a Sparklet, but now your Sparklet has to do the same amount of work that it was doing as Spark. So now instead of 1 Spark per day doing this amount of work to build this structure, it's now going to be 1,000 Sparklet to do this over the course of a day to build this structure. It is going to be a transition, and Upland's going to take a little time at it. So during that period of time, it will be unavailable, affecting all Spark-related mechanics. That includes manufacturing, staking, and building. The process will require an initial maintenance window of approximately 4 to 6 hours on the 25th. Thank you so much for understanding and supporting us as we make this important change. 2 days of transition, 2 days of not being able to use Spark normally in order to turn around and have Sparklet, in order to have Sparklet be listed, in order to have Sparklet be something that is much more easy to understand for people outside of the game of Upland, and theoretically for people to come into the game of Upland because of the utility of this token that we call Sparklet. It's worth it. It's worth those 2 days. KO Ninja, good to see you. What's up, Dopest crew? Good to see you. Lil Mark, the time for building will stay the same, right? Yes, as of right now, Spark utility is going to be the same. So if my 1,000 Sparklet is equal to 1 Spark, and that 1 Spark was able to build blank structure in 14 days, that 1,000 Sparklet will build blank structure in 14 days. It's going to be the same process, the same utility. And I do want to give that a caveat. Upland has already talked about in the white paper, that Sparklet will potentially have a variable utility, just like Spark. If we call it Spark, if we call it Sparklet, it wouldn't matter, would have a variable utility once we start having Sparklet exchangeable. If we have the value of Sparklet increase significantly as a measure to maintain the value of Sparklet and maintain the utility, the reason for people to go and buy it, everyone who owns Sparklet, their Sparklet, it doesn't matter that they've owned it for 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. That Sparklet could have its utility increased based on the increase in the value in the market. And vice versa, I don't know if Upland is going to negatively impact the value or the utility of Sparklet, but definitely if the value goes up significantly, what you can do with 1 Sparklet could be increased, aka it may be less time to build the same structure with the same amount of Sparklet if the value of Sparklet goes up significantly. And that's one way for them to hedge against the argument of what's the utility of blank Sparklet now that the value's gone up. Well, your utility's gone up. The more valuable Sparklet is on the open market, the more utility that Sparklet may have. And I think it's a very strong metric or a very strong utility-based control that Upland's considering doing. It is part of the white paper. Obviously, before the listing happens, there will be a finalized white paper that'll go out. We'll get more information. But that mechanic alone, it makes Sparklet a much more powerful, much higher utility token than what we've seen in almost anything else in any other environment. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I hope Upland does it right. It sounds like they have talked to the right people on the tokenomics. It sounds like they've talked to the right people on balancing and maintaining utility alongside the potential for value, inflation or deflation, alongside markets, what could and what may happen. And as long as there is that steady sight on the utility, and that being first and foremost, and the ability for people to buy and sell as a means for Sparklet to end up in the hands of people who want it, and the ability for people who own Sparklet and are ready to sell it. If that's what exchanges end up becoming, with the utility of Sparklet being first and foremost, I think that this is something I'm very much looking forward to. Again, we need Sparklet to get there. That's what we're doing over the next couple days. Good to see everybody. I see some people jump in the chat. Good to see 6 Wicks in the chat. And let's take a look at how this actual announcement looks. Again, the specifics on it. The 25th to 27th, we could see some interruptions. 25th, definitely going to have several hours of upwind having to be down for a hard maintenance period. And some specifics here. Again, reminder, 1 spark equals 1,000 Sparklet. 2.35 spark equals 2,350 Sparklet. It's that simple of a transition. And obviously, multiply your spark by 1,000. That's how much Sparklet you will have. Utility is going to be temporarily available, but like I said, when it comes back, your holistic pile is going to do the same amount of work after the transition that it did before. The same amount of buildings built in the same amount of time. After the update, again, spark values, they're just going to be shown as Sparklet. We know that 1,000 to 1 conversion factor. Nothing too crazy there. Please note that this time frame is subject to change based on technical progress, and we'll keep you updated. So yes, we know that these things, if it starts and they have an issue, they got to stop, they got to recalibrate, they got to do it again. If they start and there's a technical lag where the conversion's not happening as quickly as they want it to, or there is an issue with server size of the migration, then that could be something that slows things down. So keep an eye out. Watch in Discord. If the game of Upland's down, obviously Discord's your place to get the news. We may see some of that in Twitter. With Layer 1 Upland up, obviously you can expect to see updates in the chat. When the Upland's down, you can't check the chat, obviously. Finally, the build release will require a full forced update. So once everything is done, you're going to have to go to your app and actually update your app. Or if you're using browser-based, you have to load a new instance when you log in online. You should be logging into the new instance, the newest version of Upland. Log out, log in. That should be enough to get you in on browser-based. And again, like I said, as an app, you're going to have to go to the App Store. You're going to have to go and update that app and then use the new version. Thank you for understanding and your support to make this important change in Upland. We appreciate your patience and understand during this transition and look forward to the new Sparklet era in Upland. And again, I'm very, very excited. I might be a little bit jazzed and jittery, and that's because the era of Sparklet in Upland is a potential for increased expansion, but it is really about utility, if you ask me. By creating this Sparklet utility, Upland's doing something that I kind of asked for of Upland, or I kind of imagined for Upland as the best version of Upland, and that was microtransactions. I wanted things to be able to be done on a fractional scale. That's why I liked UpX. So if I was going to buy something from someone, maybe there was going to be a reason why I would pay 5 UpX an hour, which is a fractional cent. Again, the 1,000 to 1 thing, we know it's not currently in the market of Upland, but with UpX, when originally conceived, you had fractionals of a cent. You had 1,000 to $1. That means you had 10 UpX to a cent, which means 5 UpX is half a cent. With those fractionals, you have opportunities to do more and more with these microtransactions. And with fractional Spark, getting down to 1,000th of a Spark, which is a Sparklet, you have the opportunity to do different things potentially with that Spark. If you're talking about in game in Layer 2, maybe there's a very small action that wouldn't make sense to say stake a 100th of a Spark. But maybe it would make sense to say stake 2 1,000th of Spark. Again, making and allowing that smaller denomination, that smaller transaction, it may make more sense for you to do it. Therefore, it opens up more opportunities, more gamified environments. Also having that fractional, again, going to the 1,000th instead of the 100th of Spark. Previously, we only had the option to go to the 100th, but going to the 1,000th of Spark, maybe that's also where it comes in to start making sense for burning. It means You take your spark, boom, it's gone. It's actually transferring into an account of Uplands, but boom, burn that spark so that you can have legits. Maybe on a 100 legit factor for me, maybe it's not worth 100th of a spark to be gone forever. Maybe it's worth 5,000th of a spark. So whatever that economy ends up becoming, however much spark lit you have to burn to end up with a created legit, or in order to burn a certain number or make a certain number of legits, you have to burn a certain amount of sparklet. Having that fractional, that additional decimal point moved over, makes a huge difference. As the 100th to go to the 1,000th, that fractional nature, that microtransaction is huge as far as I'm concerned. And that is really a very strong potential for increasing the game of Upland. It makes potential transactions smaller, which maybe people want to focus on bigger transactions. But because there are smaller transactions available, it is an easier liquidity. It's easier to get into those transactions. It's easier for people to justify those transactions. It's a potential starting place for newer players to come in and act and be part of that economy at that lower level. And potentially, people not willing to tie up a large amount of their spark to play, I don't know, Whizzy Whiz Bang's growth factory where you're growing a little garden, but maybe you would tie up 5 1,000ths of spark instead of 1 100th of spark to play that game for a couple days. Maybe that's something you'd be willing to do. Or maybe there's going to be a reason to tie up 100th of a spark in that game, but there's a lesser reason to tie up a 2 or 3 thousandths, and maybe you find that reason, and that's going to diversify. That's going to allow larger numbers and larger opportunities in the layer 2 environment, and that's something I'm very much looking forward to. And again, if done right, which Upland's already talking about doing spark grants, Sparklet, sorry, we are officially into the Sparklet age, Sparklet grants to layer 2 developers based on using Sparklet in these games. You could say, if you stake this Sparklet, you get blank. And while that Sparklet's staked, potentially, again, there's this question of why would people stake Sparklet? Theoretically, if you look at different staking applications, if you have someone stake it in your pool, Upland theoretically could have an agreement with whoever it is that when they have things that are staked in their pool, they could stake the mass of that pool for whatever project they want. They're giving rewards to the subscribers of that, whatever that game is, or people who are participating in that game for staking their Sparklet. That's how they monetize their game, is they take that Sparklet and then they use that Sparklet to do what they want with, which could be they could be building in Upland, they could be building map assets with the Sparklet that they have staked in their game, they have pooled in their game. And anybody who has Sparklet that's pooled in their game, they have access to play whatever game is being asked of. And maybe there's rewards and maybe there's not. Maybe it's people are willing to put a little bit of Sparklet away to play this game on a daily basis and leave it staked in this game to have that continued access just because they're enjoying it. And like I said, the smaller denomination makes that decision easier for people. So 2 thumbs up. I'm looking forward to it. It is a strong possibility for more opportunities in the game of Upland, in the room for layer 2 development space. I also, in this, like to point out and like to keep people in mind with this is it also is going to make that transition when we start talking about the next earning, the next airdrop. People are going to have that direct transition. I'm earning Sparklet because this is a Sparklet airdrop. This is how much I'm getting. It keeps our eyes open for the fall when we have that listing. It also makes it easier to parlay into the future of Sparklet. You're already seeing the amount of utility that's coming in. A new player comes into the game of Upland, earns 17 Sparklet for whatever the airdrop campaign is, came in specifically for that 17 Sparklet. But in the meantime, they can see what that 17 Sparklet can do in Upland. If it doesn't meet the minimum to build or whatever the case is, they can earn another they can earn another 3 Sparklet, get 20 Sparklet, do whatever 20 Sparklet can do. So it's kind of, it's kind of an on-ramp. It's an easier on-ramp to bring people on, to have one language instead of being talking or having a position where you're talking about multiple languages at the same time. And again, all I can say is give Upland a little bit of patience for the 2-day transition period. Might be 3-day transition period, so that we can all have Sparklet in our accounts. We can all have the right amount of Sparklet in our accounts, and we can have utility with that Sparklet coming not too far down the future. That's a little differentiated from the utility we have now. All right, and let's get into this other piece here. This is a unexpected yet expected announcement. Again, when we get into seasons, it's very common to have a map asset sale along with the Block Explorer sale, along with the car sale. It's very common to have something like that during that season. With Genesis season still underway, well underway, we're a few weeks in, we're thrilled to introduce brand new map assets. The Denesis Map assets come in 2 captivating styles, the blue, elegant blue, and the rare gold. Each bundle you purchase will include one of 6 distinct models. So 6 models, and then you have 2 styles. You have the elegant blue and you have the rare gold. And this is a rare gold right here. Look how amazing this is. Don't you want the rare gold? I know I do, because that's what I am. Each bundle you purchase, again, there's 6 different models that you could have in there. You're going to get one of them. Registration does start Sunday the 23rd of June at 9 a.m. PT, with a sale start on Monday the 24th of June, 9 a.m. PT. Let's get all our details right here and get the previews of the images. Denesis Map assets. Look at the gold. Oh, it's gorgeous. Yeah, that's why we like gold. Look at that. Look at that color. Here's the blue. Here's the gold. Unveiling the map assets for Genesis season. We saw all of that. We know about our purchases. Let's find out some pricing. Let's find out some quantities. There'll be 25 of the Genesis Wings, golden Genesis Wings. There'll be 25 mints of the golden Sparklet, and there'll be 25 mints of the golden Sparklet Wings. We look down here at the Genesis Wings. We have 125 of the Genesis Wings in blue. We have 125 of the Sparklet in blue, and then we have 125 mints of the Sparklet golden wings, Sparklet Wings, the non-golden Sparklet Wings. Registration starts on Sunday, June the 23rd at 9 a.m. PT. Sales on a Monday the 24th of June at 9 a.m. PT, with a 12,000 UPEX sale price. Well, ooh, is that not too bad? I do like to point out 2 things. Number one, the map asset market has grown significantly. There's a lot of UGC that's there. There are some items on the UGC market that are available for as low as 1,000 UPEX. Keep in mind that many of those have much larger editions. Not all of them do. Some of them have okay graphics. Some of them look like they were made very, very quickly. Again, no disparaging remark about anyone's individual map assets, but when Upland puts out an official map asset like this, they do set the price. It can be separate from the market. The market doesn't necessarily always have to line right up, but 12,000 UPEX, historically, looking at other assets that have a limited supply available, is a relatively reasonable price. Some would say it's a low price compared to some of the assets that have been out there with similar quantities. 12,000 UPEX is the price, 450 bundles total and available, and one of these 6 could be yours. The golden Genesis Wings, the golden Sparklet, the golden Sparklet Wings, the Genesis Wings, the Sparklet, and the Sparklet Wings. Total of 6 different options there. Don't miss your chance to own a piece of Genesis season history. Mark your calendars and be ready to secure your Genesis Map assets. It's a sale like any other. It's an UPEX, which I appreciate. I've made some comments over the last year-ish as Upland transitioned more and more to the sales in USD. And that was, in some of these items, let's have them designated for UPEX and direct UPEX and no USD side sale. And thank you. Thank you, Upland. This is the right type of sale to sell in UPEX. I like the map assets in UPEX. It is a way for me to spend my UPEX other than minting properties. I earn UPEX as dividends. I can choose to use that UPEX to mint this type of asset. I can use my UPEX to mint new properties, which are going to make me new dividends. I know that this doesn't add to my map, to my net worth. I know this isn't going to give me dividends, but dang it. Look up here. Look at that gold. Just look at it. It's the right amount of shiny. I don't like too shiny gold. I like it, I like it to have little luster. I like it to have a little shine, but I like it to have a little texture. And it can't be too shiny if you want that texture. So I do like the way these gold presentation looks. Blue, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, you're more likely to end up with the blue than with the gold, but the goldsmith's in the name. The gold is in the name, I should say, and the gold says my name, so I'll take it. I'll take the gold all day long if that's what's going to come my way. As I've said with the last few of these sales, if I can make them, I'm going to purchase. I missed a couple of these sales. I missed one 2 days ago, and that was because of the reality that if these things sell out in 20 minutes, or not even sell it in 20, 25 minutes, and I'm at lunch, I'm going to buy one. And if they sell in 25 minutes, and my position in the line is 30 minutes, I'm not going to be able to buy one. Again, these are limited sales. And then, of course, if they're available for 25 minutes and I'm really not available because it's during my work time, I'm in a meeting, I can't get out of it, can't even grab my phone for just a minute, I'm going to be unfortunately unable to purchase. And that's been part of the story of Upwind for lots of players who are in different time zones. People who are in the middle of their workday, they're not always able to get to these sales. The people who it's 2 o'clock in the morning, they can't always justify getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to compete or to participate in one of these sales, not knowing if they're going to get lucky to get a spot in line early enough to purchase, or if they're going to be, 497th in line and just sit there and watch everybody else purchase them before they're able to do so. So with this, thank you, Upwind. It's good. I like it. I'm glad it's here. I'm glad we have an UpX direct sale. What I do want to look forward to, obviously, now that we have this with a sale on Monday, now that we finally have this announcement, again, I say finally because Upwind was in beta on the Sparklet side of things, and they had already told people to start piloting certain people to display their Spark in Sparklet and have their building cost in Sparklet and making sure that works on a per Uplander basis. And they did. That was tested. There was certain people who were part of that test. It worked, which is why we're doing this mass transition. When we see these mass transitions, that's where errors can sometimes come. It can happen because of load. And if the load exceeds the capacity, sometimes things don't work the way they're supposed to. So do have some patience. Be ready. Be ready for there potentially to be some weird looking things. Someone could look and have 100,000 Sparklet for a few minutes and be like, wow! And then Upland has to correct it. So a little bit of patience, a little bit of give Upland a little bit of breathing room on this. If it needs to be reworked, if it needs to be paused, or if things have to happen a little bit differently than planned, give the room for it, because this is an important transition. This is part of the future of Upwind. This is part of the listing of Sparklet in the fall, and this is part of the continued growth and expansion of a player-driven economy with two currencies, UpX and Sparklet, that can be leveraged outside the game of Upwind through layer 2s to take advantage, or to be used, I should say, to be used in transactions either through the game or to the game or between players. And having that Sparklet between players, having the ability for these layer 2 developers to do things with Sparklet to facilitate trades, that's going to be beautiful, and I'm very much looking forward to it. You sound like a honey badger. Yeah, I got a little excited, so maybe I did sound a little bit like a honey badger, but it is exciting. The UpX, having these UpX sales, this is a good highlight for why we have UpX in the game. There are things you can do exclusively with the UpX. If you wanted to buy this and you have USD, guess what? You go buy UpX, because there's not an option to buy this in USD, which, again, I love this. I love this to be for certain types of assets. And if there's certain things we're going to sell cars for these mystery sales in USD, fine. But I want to have another car sale in UpX. Wouldn't that be lovely? A primary car sale, Upwind says there's a mint value on a car. You really want that 1R and you have 860,000 UpX? Go buy that 1R for 860,000 UpX. Wouldn't that be a gift? rather than spending $280 rolling the dice and maybe I get it, maybe I don't. If I don't get it, then it goes on the secondary, and now it's 1.6 million UPIX when I just spent $280 to end up with a 1E and then spend 1.6 million UPIX to get that 1R. UPIX sales make sense, for different types of assets. I like that Upland's doing them, and I appreciate that they're doing them in this case. So for today, I want to say thank you, Upland, for this opportunity here. Thank you, Upland. I'm going to go back to the other opportunity, which I liked. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Thank you, Upland, for all that this is, all the transition up to Sparklet, all that this opens up, all the potentials here. Again, I'm looking forward to the future. And I'm going to give you a little bit of room. I think a lot of other people should too. And then otherwise for tonight, thank you so much, everybody, all of you, for being here. Monday through Friday, 7:30 p.m. PT. We get together for the Cafe Nightly Show. We do it on Twitter. We do it on YouTube. We do it on the Plaza on Tuesdays and Fridays. We do it in Upland's official Discord on Voice. If you can be there, I'm glad to have you. It's an opportunity to do a pre-show. It's an opportunity to do a post-show. It's where we all get together. And of course, if you're in the Upland Discord right now, thank you so much for being here. Unmute your mics. The floor is yours.